dust storm, man.
Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
All right, so this week we are hit with some of the most shocking news ever to rock Star Wars fandom. Star Wars did not win at the Oscars. This is The Wars and More. I'm Joe, and of course with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey Doug, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good, Joe. How are you doing? Shocking
doing
news there.
right.
Shocking. I can hardly believe
just devastating.
Yeah.
Never saw that coming. I can't believe another Star Wars film did not win an Oscar.
Oh, 3 nominations, and I guess that's 3 strikes. So, oh well.
Well, such as Star Wars.
Yeah.
This one won, right? Back in 1977.
What's that?
It's won one Oscar, right?
Well, I mean, we've got Star Wars has gotten Oscars for various things along the way, but most of it, we've talked about this. It's usually VFX and sound editing and things like that. A lot of times the Oscars that Star Wars does win, it's not even like on the primetime show. It's all done on the I don't even know what you call it, the pre-show, whatever it is, the
the prelims.
Yeah. So it's not even like a big enough Oscar to put it on the primetime show. So yeah, it's typical. What do you do, right? It's just how it goes for Star Wars. We are used to it by now, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the Oscars. The Oscars are usually filled with they don't tend to like the mainstream stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, okay. So
well, hold on. Let me correct that.
Yeah.
The franchise stuff.
Well, to some degree, yes, you're correct. But I still feel like this is, George Lucas famously bucked the whole Hollywood system, and he wanted to make this movie, and way back when he was pitching it, right? We're talking around 74 or 5, whatever. Nobody was biting. And he did a lot of finagling to get this thing done. And, basically he did things his way, and then he self-funded after that. So, and then he made the whole, licensing deals for the merchandise and all that. And, there was a lot of stuff that he did different in order to get the movie made that he wanted to get made. And it went against the grain of Hollywood. And I think they're still punishing him for that. And Disney's getting to,
still feel the wrath.
Feel the wrath. Exactly. That's it. So.
Yeah, because I'm sure, nobody wanted anything to do with it, for the initial installment. Then probably everybody wanted a piece of the empire.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. And George was like, "Nope,
exactly.
Screw you."
Oh, yeah. Do
it myself.
Yeah, that's one thing that he was always about was, creative control. Yep, that was him. He always had the final say when it was his company. So, got to give the man credit, though. He got it done.
Yeah, and it's not very common in I'll say even I'll go as far as to say art, mainstream type art like music or film and things like that you get to walk out owning your property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
typically it's a company that owns your property in the end.
Yep.
They put your name on it that you created it, but you don't own it.
Exactly.
And this is bigger in music than anything, but
Sure. And yeah, there's one Oscar too that we kind of skipped over. This was a few years back, but George did get a Lifetime Achievement Oscar, but never for like a Best Picture or Best Director or anything like that for Star Wars that I'm aware of. So,
right.
It's they're acknowledging, yep, did some good work here, guy, but we're still kind of like,
But you're still a jackass.
yeah, you're not part of our system here. So
Yeah. Yeah, you get our acknowledgement, but you're not part of the club.
right.
Well, I don't think that whole club really suits George Lucas anyway.
Oh no. He was always, I don't know what you call it, but he was always bucking the system. He was counterculture, I guess, and didn't want to be subservient to the man, right? I guess that's the way you could look at it from back in that day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see that in his writing.
Absolutely.
Always rooting for the little guy.
Yep. Total underdog stories, for sure.
Yep. Independence.
Yeah. Free thinkers.
Yeah, well, I mean, even though Star Wars didn't take an Oscar, there were some Star Wars names among the winners.
Yeah. This is true. So let's see here. I'm pulling stuff up. Taika Waititi got an Oscar for Jojo Rabbit, which is cool.
Right.
And let's see. It's funny because in all of his post-Oscar interviews, it's he's had a hand in The Mandalorian, and he played IG-11, and he's got Thor stuff coming up and all that, but interviews, they all if you've ever had anything to do with Star Wars, it seems like they always come back to Star Wars again when they're talking to you. So it's kind of funny, but there's been a lot of talk about him actually directing a Star Wars feature film. So when they asked him about it, what he had to say was, "I wish there was a better story. I'll put it that way. Are there discussions about the Star Wars film? Like, yeah, I discussed with my friends in 1996 how cool Star Wars was. That's what they're going off. I think people see me hanging out with people, especially with Star Wars, and think I'm having some big discussions about it. I would effing love to, if it was right. I would want to do any kind of movie if it made sense, and if it felt not like career suicide." So, I mean, this...
and he's out.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that kind of worries me a little bit, though, because, I mean, is this the kind of feeling, the tone that directors, like good directors out there, have towards Star Wars now? I mean, are they afraid that if I take on this challenge of doing a Star Wars film, is it going to be career suicide for me?
I don't know. Yes and no. I think they do look at the fact that it seems like no matter what you do or what you put out, half of fandom is gonna hate you.
Yeah.
So I guarantee that's a part of anyone's thinking going into a discussion for making a Star Wars film.
It's amazing because it's like that now. And I don't know. I look at Star Wars stuff a lot, right? And sometimes we veer off into other things, but it seems to me like this is it's really been highlighted in Star Wars, right? The fan base and how there's this divide, but I see it in other franchises as well. I don't necessarily want to name any names because we mainly focus on Star Wars here, but I don't think Star Wars is alone in this. I think I don't know. It's a societal thing, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think on a societal level, we just want to fight about everything. Right. Doesn't matter what. You got to draw a line in the sand and pick your side. I think that's troublesome.
Exactly. I just don't see it that way. Like what you like and don't like what you don't like, and if you don't, then you just leave it alone. And
I think there's a certain amount of like hive-mindedness.
Oh, I can see that
goes on. Like you allow others to shape your opinion. This isn't true in all cases.
No.
But I think there is a big portion of that, because I have talked to people and I'll stick to Star Wars. I've talked to people immediately after a film comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the next day they're like, oh yeah, I liked it a lot. And I thought this was interesting. And then you talk to them in a couple weeks and they're like, man, that was just the worst Star Wars movie ever. This was that way. And this was that way. It's like, why do it seems like you took the time to get online and read what everybody else had to write, and that then shaped your opinion.
Yes.
I'm all for, listening to other people's take. Obviously, we're doing a podcast right now. If no one took anyone else's take and listened to it, there'd be no reason to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know our goal here is not to shape your opinion.
Exactly.
And I don't think you should ever have anyone, shape your opinion. Your opinion should be your opinion. Can you listen to something and go, yeah, I never thought of it that way?
Sure.
Yeah. But don't hate something because the group hates something.
Exactly. I think nothing highlights what you just said better than I would encourage everybody, and I hate that it always goes back to this, but I would encourage people to go back and listen to our episodes if you're so inclined. Right after The Last Jedi came out, because immediately after we talked about this, I remember walking out of the theater saying, I'm not sure how I feel about this movie.
Right.
And then my desire to like it because it's Star Wars was, I guess, the prominent feeling I had at the time,
Right.
And then as things kind of settled in, I started focusing more and more on the things that bothered me. So, everyone has these opinions and they are, our own individual opinions, and they can change over time,
Mm-hmm.
So,
but let it change because of your discussions and your, view, your evolving view.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say with this too, is that, like I said, didn't know how I felt about it. Then my desire to love it because it's Star Wars was so overwhelming. I was like, okay, yes, I'm behind it. I'm going to champion this movie. But the more and more I watched it, the more and more certain things bugged me,
Right. And I think of like, you see people on Instagram and things like that, and they're referred to as like social media influencers.
Yeah.
Why would you want that to be your name? Like,
I don't know. I get what you're saying.
I just wouldn't want influencer in my name, you know, like if you inspire someone or something like that, that's one thing.
That's nice. Exactly.
But to be an influencer, that's like you're set out to mold someone's mind into something else.
So the point of view that it would be even more concerning for me is the person who's watching the influencer, knowing they're called an influencer and allowing them to influence their opinion. It's like,
right.
That's kind of, you know, I don't know. But
yeah, I know if I'm watching that and I see, oh, they're an influencer, and I'm be like, the hell they are.
Exactly.
Now I'm set out just to disagree with everything they did, which in a way is still influencing me.
True.
I guess.
True. Yeah.
So yeah, I digress. We're talking about Star Wars. We're not talking about, you know.
Yeah.
But the point is you should always go in with your own thoughts, feelings, emotions. Emotions is the important part.
Yeah.
Because that's what this kind of storytelling plays on. It's operatic, you know?
Yeah. And
it's meant to play on that emotion. And if you don't go in with your own emotions, and if you go in with an emotion of anger to start with, you're going to leave with it. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
If you go in with the intent to let your emotions run wild and go with the flow.
Yeah.
So
I'm just, like I said, my concern is if you have directors looking at the way things are and considering the potential of doing a film in that franchise, namely Star Wars, career suicide, and that's what they're thinking about, and they're not focusing on, I can make a really good Star Wars story.
Right.
Then that's a problem.
Thought.
Yeah.
So, moving into the future of Star Wars.
Okay.
We are headed away, with the exception of the Disney Plus content. We are headed away from those foundation, you know, that foundation, right? The Skywalker saga.
Correct.
We're moving away from that. We're going into a whole new world, you know, in film, unexplored.
Yeah.
While hinted at and talked about and things like that, it's relatively untouched.
Yep.
Do these feelings carry over? Or do you see more of a reset?
Oh, I think to some degree you're definitely going to have a reset. You are starting from square one as far as story goes. I mean, the only holdover that we have with what they've talked about most recently and where they're thinking of going, what is it, the High Republic?
Right.
Is Yoda.
And let me branch off of that. Do you think keeping any of those characters involved in the story is a potential mistake?
I don't know.
Because by doing so, now you're opening the door to that you know, the Last Jedi problem. You know, Luke Skywalker wouldn't do that. You know, do you have a situation where people are like, Yoda wouldn't do that?
Well,
do you run the risk of the past influencing the new too much?
I don't know. I think this is, you know, this is.
Well, maybe the mystery of Yoda is gonna kind of,
be unraveled with the Mandalorian.
No, that's not what I meant. Like maybe the mystery of that character, the fact that you don't know so much about Yoda, is going to prevent that from being
Well, okay.
Too much of a burden?
We've had some of this discussion about Yoda on the show before, right? We've had Hunter on, and he's not that big of a fan because, he's like, Yoda's always wrong. Yeah. So,
and I'm not a big fan because of other reasons. I'd rather see the mystery of Yoda kept intact.
Right.
I don't want them to dive too much into that character. I think part of his allure is the mystery.
But Yoda is viewed within Star Wars as wise, right?
Right.
I mean, I think Anakin even says it, right? As wise as Master Yoda or something. So
yeah, as powerful as Master Windu.
Right. So,
yeah.
How does it get there, right? I mean, anybody who has a ton of experience, with 800 or 900 years, you're gonna get a ton of experience. You had to have made some mistakes along the way, So there's gonna be some people, if they go this route and put Yoda into something, and Yoda's messing things up, there's going to be people that are upset because this is Yoda. He can't mess
screw up.
Right. And there's going to be other people who think Yoda should be full of flaws, and it wasn't enough. So, I think, I don't want to say it's going to be a no-win situation, but,
I can hear it now. People are saying Yoda doesn't screw up, and Hunter's over there screaming, he screwed up for 6 movies, 7 seasons of the Clone Wars.
Yes, he would be saying that too. I love it. But I think, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Yoda should be the focus. How about that? If Yoda's player in this new movie, it's maybe he's not the chief protagonist. Maybe he's like an ancillary character.
He can't be the main character. That would be a mistake.
Agreed.
I mean, whether you're afraid of them delving too much into the character or screwing up the character or whatever, we can all agree that making Yoda the main character of that series would be a gigantic mistake.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Somehow we started talking about Yoda in all this, but yeah.
I mean, this is where it goes. Where it goes, nobody knows.
That's right.
We don't even know. Yeah. It's definitely wild, and wild to think about. Where do they go? Does stuff like the Academy opinion and things like that change? Like,
what are you referring to?
Just like the Oscars and stuff like that.
Oh, I see.
Does that change with a fresh take?
I see. Well, it's possible.
You get away from the Skywalker story. Does that reinvigorate Star Wars' chances for awards, accolades?
Possibly. For me,
because does some of that, does some of the snubs also attribute to this story's been being told for, how many years? Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. I got for me, my biggest concern moving forward is that Star Wars becomes, a cookie cutter. I hate to use that term cookie cutter, but I mean, like, okay, we have a formula and this is what we're going to do to make these Star Wars movies.
So does it become Marvel is what you're saying?
I didn't want to say that either, but okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'll say it.
Yeah, I know.
I've been saying that forever.
But yes, that's what I mean.
And once again, my opinion, not yours.
Yeah. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm afraid that could happen. And I hope it doesn't. I hope that whoever they have making these movies,
I think the potential's there for Star Wars to do exactly the opposite, because I think sticking with this story and trying to stay true to this, that, or the other, Star Wars runs the risk of becoming cookie cutter, because you have to stay loyal to this. So you end up just rehashing old themes. One of the biggest criticisms of The Force Awakens was it felt too much like A New Hope.
Yeah.
I think if you break away from this mold that has to be set, you also can separate yourself from that chance of becoming cookie cutter.
Right.
If you open it up to all kinds of crazy crap, then it won't be.
Yeah. I agree. I just think that even though how do I put it? There's no Skywalkers that we have to worry about, right? And the Skywalker saga is steeped in this Campbellian, like, hero with 1,000 faces and all that, like, hero's journey, and
yeah,
and you don't necessarily need to stick with that, but there are things in the Star Wars universe you must adhere to. If you're going to have Force users, there's certain things that Force users can do, can't do, and I don't know.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's not like trekking forth into a new. I shouldn't have used that word.
Yeah, what's the matter with you?
Wow. Yeah, we'll edit that out. So moving forward into a new era of Star Wars, it doesn't mean that you can just forget about everything. I mean, there are foundational things that have to stay intact.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, just because you have a new film coming out doesn't mean you need to introduce a new force power. Right? Yeah, because you're going to end up with like all, a bunch of like Superman, almost godlike people running around with lightsabers. So
yeah, you can't have a Sith that doesn't need a Death Star to destroy a planet, like
right.
It's just like, I don't like that planet.
I guess what I'm saying is,
talking to you, Thanos.
you have certain things, certain abilities, certain codes they adhere to, whatever, and you can still build a good story within that, right?
Right.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I will follow your lead and let this go. For now, yeah. We'll be back on that.
Of course.
Have something to add to the conversation? Or you just want to let us know how we're doing? Email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get in on the action. But if social media is a little more to your liking, @TheWarsandMore on Twitter is always a good place to interact with us. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/TheWarsandMore. And of course, your portal to this and everything else, The Wars and More, is thewarsandmore.com. All right, so I feel like since we started this show, we've talked about this every year, and it's because it happens every year.
Yeah, it seems like it.
So Disneyland prices are going up again. So not surprising. They go up every year.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way.
But, and I guess it's not surprising that we're going to have this discussion again, but like, at what point is it too much, That's the big question.
probably like 1986. It was too much. I don't know, man. It's funny because, every time this happens, we kind of ask these same questions like, oh my gosh, when are people going to say enough's enough and quit going? But people keep going. So
because I asked this question, and this is a easy question for us to bring up because we are in close enough proximity to Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio.
yes.
Okay, and Cedar Point is world renowned for its roller coasters.
Yep.
It is. They advertise it as the roller coaster capital of the world for a reason.
They got a couple of them, right?
Yeah, they've got the most.
Exactly.
And not only do they have the most, but they constantly have the biggest, the fastest, the tallest, fastest in this category, the first one of this kind,
Yep.
And they're always breaking records with their roller coasters. And I think they're expensive.
Sure.
But they are not Disney expensive.
No, I don't know. Does anyone rival Disney? I mean, this is
negative. And Disney is probably, having been to Disney and having, been to Cedar Point several times, Disney is by far a more rounded theme park experience.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
They have more, I guess you would say they have more family friendly items to offer.
Yep.
Whereas Cedar Point is really, really centered around the thrill seeker kind of amusement park deal,
Yep, for sure.
They do have tons of family friendly options and things to do and like a carnival like atmosphere.
Right.
But they don't have all the characters and not like Disney. I mean, they have the Peanuts characters.
Yeah.
But it's not Mickey Mouse.
Right. It's I guess you put it best. It's more of a thrill seeker type experience, whereas Disney is, trying to immerse you in all of your favorite films and movies and all of the world of Disney, I guess.
Oh, for sure. And there are things about Disney that I think Cedar Point should adopt. Primarily their fast pass system.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Cedar Point's is expensive and dumb.
Nice.
Disney's is free and just makes a lot of sense. Like, you schedule a time, you come back. What's so hard about that?
Yeah, nothing. It's
so instead you can pay $125 and just skip the line whenever you want, which just makes the rest of the line just wait because, yeah, I've seen people just circle the line,
Yep.
I'm standing in line for an hour and a half and I see the same people 15 times.
Right.
Not good.
That is not good. That makes for angry customers.
Yes. But yeah, not what we're talking about here.
Right.
Yeah. Going off on a tangent again. This is going to be the show of tangents. But so back to the meat of this, prices are going up. Yeah. Where'd it go? How'd I lose that?
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go. So they're doing like a tiered system now. Whereas like the lowest demand days will be $104. Like it stays unchanged. So the lowest demand days, they keep the same pricing. So instead of making the days where they can't get people to come in cheaper, they're just going to keep that the same price and make everything else more expensive.
Haha, okay.
So
guess I know what days I'm going.
Yeah, interesting plan.
Yeah.
For the peak days, like Saturdays, Sundays, tickets go up to $154.
Wow.
Now, I guess they already had this kind of tiered pricing, but it's going up based on tier.
Okay.
I think last year or the year before they started that peak days thing.
Huh. Interesting. I mean, I understand it. You know, it's kind of a basic supply and demand thing. But, yeah, wow. I don't know. If you're going on a weekend, you might feel like you're being taken advantage of a little.
Yeah, and then the park hopper option, which lets you visit both Disneyland and California Adventure, is up to $159 for the lowest demand days, and $209 for the highest demand days.
Wow,
that's craziness to me. A $50 premium to do both parks, like that's the price roughly of going to Cedar Point.
Yeah.
That's the difference between just going to one park or both parks is the price of a Cedar Point admission.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm baffled by the math in my head here a little bit. I'm just I don't know. I guess if you're an experienced park goer, you can kind of like get in all the certain stuff that you want to get in. But for me and my family, I mean, we spend a lot of time just like, I don't know, taking it all in when you're there at the park. You know what I'm saying? And kind of spend like the whole day at one particular place, you know? So
I think the problem with this is that you are forced now to try and get as much in as you can,
right?
You know, to get your money's worth, and probably bump it down by a couple days.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna, you know, if I were going, that would certainly be, you know, you make your game plan ahead of time and you try and execute as well as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
There is some good news in all this.
Okay.
Parking will remain $25 a day.
Oh, excellent. It's totally worth it. Yeah. Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. It's craziness. I think it's super expensive. Now, I've never been to Disneyland.
Okay.
I've only been to Disney World.
Well, I've been to Disneyland once. That was in 1988. So, it's been a while.
Yeah, so sure it was much different then.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it was much different in 2008.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's wild, but people still go. So, yeah. Although I will say, shortly after the opening of Galaxy's Edge, there was a lot of news about the lower attendance.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Just attendance is bad, and you know, it was kind of sounding a little dire at times.
Right.
And it's like, wow, you go from that to, hey, we had one of the best years on record.
I was just going to say,
ticket prices went up by 6%.
On the earnings call, Bob Iger was saying the parks were doing quite well. So, and you know, for the last quarter, right? And now, last I heard, their parks over in where are they at? Shanghai and Beijing, something like that. I forget. There's two parks over there.
Yeah,
and they're both closed because of the virus outbreak. But
Oh yeah.
so he said we're waiting to see what's going to happen for this quarter in those parks and all that. But
Well, it makes sense because I almost guarantee the parks would be empty
Yes,
during this whole.
for sure.
Like the last thing you want to do is like, wow, there's a major virus outbreak. Let's
know.
go to Disneyland.
Exactly. Yeah. Probably not the best course of action. But hey,
So-
I'm sure they can weather the storm. They'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Disney will do just fine.
Yeah.
Ticket prices in the U.S. are going up by 25% to make up for.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
All right. So, speaking of Disney and making money,
Yeah.
the Rise of Skywalker has passed Rogue One at the global box office.
Ooh, nice.
So that's good news
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a company and one of your properties beats your other property and the other one and the first one was already successful, that's a good day.
Yeah. There's kind of a part of me that kind of likes to see this, the episodic films. Yeah. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. The Roman numeraled episodic films.
The saga films.
The saga films, the Skywalker saga. Seeing all those surpass the one-off films is nice. I don't even know why. It's just kind of cool, I mean,
Oh, did we mention that it passed Solo?
did we have to? Yeah. I think that was just assumed. That was the first weekend, right?
I was gonna say that was Thursday night.
Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Sorry.
Don't get me wrong. Love Rogue One. I still think it's one of the best Disney Star Wars films. I'm just throwing it out there, but being part of the Skywalker saga, I like to see the Rise of Skywalker, clawing its way up there. It's cool.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think in the end it really matters to me which one's on top,
No.
but yeah, there is a certain there it goes.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Agreed, because the the numbers aren't dictating whether or not I'm going to sit down and check out one of these movies over the weekend, right? But it's just a matter of I guess the saga itself is kind of like, I don't know, feels like it's up there where it belongs as far as like the acceptance of fandom at large, I guess, right?
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's good news.
For sure.
And a thing to take into consideration here is the higher these things climb, the higher the likelihood of more.
Absolutely. That is a good point, because I was just about to say this also plays into how well Disney's doing, and how happy Bob Iger is about it. So there you go. I mean, he actually did mention that we had two films do over $1 billion each in 2019. So
right.
and I'm guessing, I know Star Wars is one, but I'm guessing Frozen was the other. Is that it?
2019? No,
Or would it be
Avengers, right?
Avengers? Okay. Yeah. So
I was gonna say Frozen did $1 billion.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
you never know. It might have. All I know is that like the first Frozen There was a bunch of singing going on that I just didn't understand. So, anyway, I mean, it was around young girls because daughters.
Holy crap! Frozen 2 made $1 billion.
Did it?
Yeah, I think so. The number I'm seeing right now is 1.43 billion.
Okay.
So he said 2 films did over $1 billion.
So maybe he's referring to those, and Star Wars isn't in that. Maybe Star Wars is going to get put on this year's books.
Yeah, because Avengers Endgame did 2.8 billion. That's a 2019 film.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, crazy.
And didn't Star Wars reach $1 billion before the new year?
That I don't recall.
Pretty sure it did.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
2 weeks. It definitely did it within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because, well... What?
Nothing. You're just going to find out.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
Never mind. I ain't finding out anything, apparently.
Okay. But, hey, if you're curious, feel free to look it up, right? So.
Yep. But yeah, it came out December 20th. So I'm guessing it made $1 billion before January 1.
Yeah, if not, it was really close.
Well, Box Office Mojo saying it's at 1.65 billion, or 1.065 billion. That doesn't seem right. Thought it was higher than that.
I'm not so sure that it is.
Okay, so maybe it didn't make $1 billion before the new year.
Okay.
Because that would mean that it's only made 65 million since the new year.
Right.
In a month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm crazy. All right, we're good.
We're good.
We're good. We'll take care of that in post, too.
Yeah. You're just so funny.
I try. All right, so speaking of Rogue One.
Ah, yes.
So first, Diego Luna was on Conan. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about Diego Luna's also been around promoting Narcos. And he was asked about when they were starting filming.
Right.
And he said they were starting this year.
Exactly. Which
puts it ahead of Obi-Wan, most likely.
Oh, I think for sure. Yes. Because Ewan McGregor has recently said they will be starting filming that first thing next year. So, yeah, it's sounding to me like, both of those are deeply entrenched in the pipeline, like they are heading our way.
Right.
And kind of staggered in such a way that we're going to be getting,
It is kind of interesting to see that shift. You see, all you saw in the news circuit for a couple weeks was Obi-Wan pushback, Obi-Wan pushback, Obi-Wan pushback, and now Diego Luna's showing up. So it's definitely a good marketing move just to kind of slide this in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that calmed down a little bit, here, let's talk about Cassian.
Yep. It's funny because I think, and I don't think this is by mistake at all either. I think this is very intentional.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, we know we have some of the Marvel franchises pieces coming out. So, I think we're getting, and don't quote, I don't have dates, but I think prior to the Mandalorian season 2, I think we're going to get what is it? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, I think that's going to be prior to the Mandalorian season 2. Then we're getting the Mandalorian season 2, and then after that, or concurrent, but later after the season 2 premiere, I think we're going to be getting the WandaVision.
Yeah.
And if they're filming this year, I don't know what time this year, but then I could see, I don't know, sometime in the front half of next year, maybe we see the Cassian series. So I think these things they're going to trickle all this stuff out to us as best they can to keep us interested in what's the next new show coming kind of thing. So, and then once we start getting subsequent seasons of these shows, it's going to be kind of like a self-maintaining machine, I guess. I don't know how you put it, but
it's like, oh, I know you're upset this is ending, but this is starting.
Exactly, and you're going to have, like I said, we have season 2 of Mandalorian. That's going to be the initial recurring thing, right? And then you get past the first season of these other shows, and then you're going to have the season 2s coming back, and then you're going to have the Obi-Wan, and it's like it's just going to keep building on itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like this is all, pretty well thought out and timed. So, I think they're being pretty smart about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, pretty cool hearing, Diego Luna's like excited about it.
Yeah. So he was on Conan.
Yes, he was. And they talked a little bit about the prequel coming out, the series, and kind of like what it was like filming Rogue One and working with Alan Tudyk. So I guess we'll just play this and we'll see how this goes.
Now you're coming back for the Disney Plus series.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a prequel. Yeah. Cassian's back. You're back for the prequel series, so you're reunited with your robot friend. It was Alan Tudyk, right?
Alan Tudyk.
He's hilarious.
And
he's
huge.
Yes.
He's big like you are.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't not have this problem if you acted with him, but I did, because the robot is big, so he was wearing stilts. And
wait, so what they did is to create, because they could have just animated the whole thing, but they tried not to do that.
They should have, because I had to interact with his balls through the whole.
He's on stilts?
He's on stilts.
And what's he wearing?
On a tight pajamas.
Oh, no.
So it's very graphic.
Yeah.
And his face is there, but it's like, whoa. I don't know, I was exaggerating, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So what is this? What does this say about Diego Luna that he signed back up to work with Alan again?
Dude, I love this guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Like this whole interview, if you haven't seen the interview, go check it out. The whole thing's hilarious. like that goes on. There was some stuff before that.
Oh yeah.
It's hilarious. I could see that being awkward.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not to mention because they did throw up a picture when they were talking about this too of K2SO standing next to Cassian. Is yeah, he's about right. He's got the height
He's
just
not
about
lying.
right. So yeah, the hilarious part there was that Felicity Jones was looking up at K2's face.
Yeah. You know, you always hope that your coworker showered. You know, when you
Right.
but damn.
Yeah. Uh, that is hilarious. So, yeah. Diego Luna's excited about getting going on this prequel series. That's awesome.
Which we don't have that audio.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he went on to say he's like, yeah, it was, you know, for the movie, but now I have to, you know, I have years of this guy's balls in my face.
Yeah. Yes. And we all thank you for it because
Yes, the final product is fantastic.
exactly.
We salute your suffering, sir. We thank you for your sacrifice.
Yes.
But like I loved his acting in Rogue One.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed hearing him talk about stuff, but I knew he was funny, but I didn't realize he was this funny. Like,
oh yeah.
he had me in stitches this whole interview.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I love that. What a great guy. What a awesome talent to have part of the Star Wars family. And I look forward to more interviews with him.
Yeah.
Because that was so funny.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. That was hilarious. I
Like when he was talking about his kids at the review
right.
or the premiere.
Yeah.
I was dying, side splitting.
Yes. Good stuff. Check that out for sure.
Yes, definitely go check that interview out. You won't be disappointed. You will laugh, and you will laugh a lot.
Yes.
All right, so we had one more, right?
Yes. So, Harrison Ford, I think we all know he's got The Call of the Wild coming out, and he
More interviews that are always good.
yes. So, he's making the rounds promoting that, and he went on Jimmy Kimmel, and again, what happens if you've been involved with Star Wars and you're promoting something else? You talk about Star Wars, right? So, Jimmy was kind of making a deal about, we all know the story of Harrison Ford thinking they should kill off Han Solo, right?
Yep.
And I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know, kind of cool, kind of funny, whatever. Excuse me. How Harrison handles this and kind of, I don't know. I'll let him show you what I'm talking about here.
Last time you were here,
It's old news.
or maybe it was the time before, I don't remember. You were almost pleading with the Star Wars people to kill Han Solo. You had enough of Han Solo. You wanted him dead, and then
You're putting a different complexion on it all. I figured that his utility had been exhausted, bled out, and I was willing to die for the cause.
the cause. Oh, I didn't realize it was.
To bring some gravitas, some bass.
So he kind of like sets him straight a little bit, right? I mean, yes, kill off the character, but he had a reason for it. Whether or not we all thought Han lost his utility. Harrison Ford did, but to die for the cause, I guess, was the noble way to go out, right?
Yeah, hero's death.
Yes. So,
he didn't want Han Solo to die an old man's death. He wanted Han Solo to die a hero's death.
yes,
And yeah, I get it.
exactly. So, now here's where things get a little funny, I guess. They talk about Han reaching almost deity status and how that happened.
And you did indeed die for the cause. And
I
yet,
did.
then we go to see
and then
the
There's
new
no,
movie.
no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah. Like Jesus, Han Solo rose again.
Not like Jesus.
Maybe a little less dramatically than Jesus, and it took more time than it took Jesus, but it's still like Jesus, yes. And how did that happen? Who convinced you to do that? Because I would imagine it would take some convincing.
JJ said, this is a good idea.
Uh-huh.
I, JJ, have decided that this is a good idea.
Uh-huh.
And I would like you to do it.
And you trust him enough that when he says something like that, you're on board?
Don't you?
So, I love the way Harrison puts this stuff now. It's like he, in a lot of ways, he's kind of like he's playing almost the confused old man really well these days.
Yeah.
But you can tell it's kind of an act, so kind of funny. But
Yeah.
I don't know, just funny. JJ says, "I want you to do this," so of course you got to do it, right? I don't know.
Which, and not to take too much of an aside here, but quick question: which show was it? Was it Colbert that tried to bribe him to let something out about Star Wars? And Han Solo coming back or something like that, and gave him money, and he puts it in his pocket and says, "I hear they're making another one."
Oh, it might have been Colbert. Yeah,
I can't remember if it was Colbert or if it was Kimmel.
one of them. Not sure exactly which one.
But yeah, for some reason that made me think of old Harrison Ford interviews and talking about Star Wars.
That's funny because you're right. That would pretty much line up with him knowing he had that little spot and not saying anything about it, right?
And it also goes along with his the way he kind of puts on an act.
Oh yeah,
when he talks about Star Wars, it was definitely Kimmel with the Chewie thing,
right? Yeah, where they make up.
Yeah, but before that, yeah, where Chewie was gonna jump.
Right.
But the episode before, there were two episodes that played into it. He was yelling at Chewie because Chewie was in the audience.
Yes.
And as he's leaving, he's like, "And I'll see you in hell."
Yes, good stuff.
Yeah. Harrison Ford's always funny when he's talking Star Wars, because he's got a certain, you can tell he's got a certain love for the character.
Yep.
But at the same time, he has a certain disdain.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah.
It's a real love-hate kind of thing, and that makes for good TV.
Right. So I said he's playing the I don't know, call it confused old guy, but he's playing a part here, and he's still being funny. And it's well known throughout the Star Wars community that he was basically a carpenter prior to taking the role of Han Solo, right? He was, he had done American Graffiti. I don't think he was planning on acting much beyond that at that point. He was building stuff.
Right.
And I guess I kind of like his way of thinking here about how to price jobs and stuff. So for carpentry work, this is good.
When you were working as a carpenter and building these kind of places here in LA, would you charge more to a celebrity than you would to a regular civilian?
Wouldn't you?
Yes.
Hey, gotta go where the money's at, right?
It makes sense.
It does. So,
yes. The answer is yes.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, at least 3 times. I mean,
Right.
like minimum.
So, yeah.
And you know what? There was he kind of missed a joke there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about the carpet and stuff. There's a Jesus joke in there.
Oh yeah, I thought about that too. Yeah, but they didn't connect those dots. That's for sure. It was a really good interview. So again, here's another one you should go check out because there's more stuff. When they actually get down to talking to Harrison about the Call of the Wild and stuff, they show a clip, and there's the dog, and dog's got a harmonica in its mouth. Jimmy's like, "How'd you get the dog to play the harmonica?" Harrison, he stops, he looks at him, he's like, "There's no dog." He's like, "We made the dog later." So
What dog?
right, it's
just me in a room.
it was funny. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. It was funny, made me laugh. So
Wow, so the dog's all CGI, huh?
oh yeah. I don't know how many clips you've seen of it. Yeah, it's all CGI. Looks good, but
Yeah, the film looks good.
the facial expressions are on the dog are literally.
Yeah, I mean, I saw
beyond
some of that.
what I've seen most dogs do.
Yeah, I've seen most of that, and that was obvious CGI work, but like they didn't have a dog at all.
According to Harrison, no. So
Well, CGI's come a long way.
it sure has.
Because aside from the facial expressions and things like that, it looks like a real dog.
Right. But hey, at least he doesn't have to work against someone's crotch.
But yes, nowadays when you have a scene where a dog plays a harmonica, yeah, you don't have to do any movie magic for that anymore. You just like create it.
Yeah, exactly. Much like K2SO.
And his balls.
And his balls, right.
All right. Before this conversation heads south.
Before? Really?
If you have anything to add to the conversation, you can always email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best place to get a hold of us. We're also on social media. We're at The Wars and More on Twitter, facebook.com/thewarsandmore. You can find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewarsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
No, that covers it for me.
All right. We will talk next week.